Hello there and welcome back to Paydown Debt Solutions. I'm Jen and today I'm going to be going over payments with you. So payments are our nemesis, right? It's the payments that keep us broke. So if you learn how to win your payment battles, then you are going to win the debt war because it's those payments that hold us back from our financial freedom. So we are going to go over today a different way to run your banking. So if you're coming to this channel, you are coming to this channel because you want to find a better way to handle your debts. Whether you make $2,000 a month or $22,000 a month, it doesn't matter. If we have payments, and we all do, then we will be payment poor. So debt payments hold us back from financial freedom. We know that's true, right? I mean, you can just look at your bank account, you can look at all the monies that are going out, and you know that that's what's holding you back. But payments are also a fact of life. Okay. So there's lots of different things that we have payments. We have debt payments and then we have subscription type payments. So we have payments that we can choose to make and payments that we kind of have to make. Okay. And so it's the debt payments that have to be paid, such as your car loan, your mortgage, and your credit cards, right? We have to pay those. Now, things like subscriptions, they can be ended and are therefore a choice. So what kinds of things are subscriptions? Well, think about it. We've got things like Netflix, your Amazon Prime account, maybe some type of budgeting software. Maybe you have a VPN that you pay for. So things like that that you pay for as a yearly subscription or as a monthly subscription that maybe you can, curtail or cut back. Those are choices that we make. Those are choices about how we want to live our life, okay? And the beautiful thing about Velocity Banking is you don't have to live strapped all the time. You can make some different choices and you can even live within the choices that you've made just by rearranging the way that your payments, are figured, the way your payments look, I should say, okay? So changing what we do with our payments or where we're placing our payments is going to make a big difference in our life, all right? So our goal should be to have only those payments we choose to have versus those that we have to have. We have to have a car payment, right? Because, well, we have to have a way of getting around. Now, could you pay for that in cash? Well, maybe. Or could you use a different way to pay for your car other than the loan that you get from, the car company? Maybe that's something that you can do. All right. So we have choices that we can make, and I'm going to teach you how to use lines of credit so that you can make better choices about the things that you want to get in life later on. Okay. Or currently, maybe you're just going to rearrange some things and make things a little better for yourself. So if all of this is true, right, and that payments make us poor, and that there are payments that we kind of are forced to make, and then payments that we have choices whether we want to make, then the question is, how do you want to live your life? And if you want to get rid of or eliminate some of those payments, then go ahead and keep watching and follow what I'm about to do for you, okay? So, what can we do? Well, we can use a debt payment funnel, okay? So, Velocity Banking is just that. It is a debt payment funnel. So we're taking our payments and we're doing something a little bit different and we're funneling them down. So as you can see in my example here, I have turned debt payments into cash flow. Well, how do you do that, right? How do you turn a debt payment into cash flow? Well, you do it like this. And I'm going to run a scenario for you, a scenario with some hypotheticals surrounding it as well, to talk about and to illustrate what we can do differently with our payments and with our resources that we have, or resources that maybe we have that we don't want to use, and what other options that we have, such as in this case, okay? So if you can turn your debt payments into cash flow, well, then things might look a little different for you, right? It just might. So what do? If you have debt payment 1, debt payment 2, and debt payment 3, and let's say they're all credit cards, such as in this case, and I've just rounded some numbers here. If we have a $14,000 card, an $8,000 card, and a $4,000 card, one is at a $400 a month payment, the other is at a $320 a month payment, and the other is at a $150 payment. So our debt expenses right here in just credit card payments alone is $870. Just think if you had that back as cash flow, how would that change your life? How would that be different for you? Well, if we use a debt payment funnel such as this to funnel those funds to look a little bit different, then you end up with something like this. You have a revolving line of credit. Maybe it's a home equity line of credit. Maybe it's a personal line of credit, or maybe it's just one of your credit cards that you're going to use. Okay, so if you have a revolving line of credit and you can move these payments, okay, this $26,000 total, into this revolving line of credit. And your payment then becomes $260 for that RLOC. Doesn't that change things for you? Doesn't it change things for you? Because now you put all of these expenses inside this revolving line of credit. You might only have a $260 payment, so that alleviates some cash flow, and you can run expenses out of it. But here's the thing: what are you going to do with that cash flow once you've eliminated it or alleviated it for yourself? That's the bigger question, and that is what makes velocity banking work so well. Because if you take this cash flow that you have freed up, right, the 610 that you freed up, and you put it right back inside that RLOC, you are going to pay your complete debt off faster, okay, and be able to work it down so that you owe less over time. And that, my friend, is what makes velocity banking so incredible. So we had some students that came to us and they had a bit of debt. They were able to obtain a home equity line of credit. It was a line for $20,000. They also had a litigation happen where they got some money. They had some cash that they got, and they wanted to know what would be the best case for them or what they should do. And at the end of the day, I'm always going to make this disclaimer, and Dan is always going to make this disclaimer. You do what you feel comfortable with. Okay, you can do whatever you want, but what you feel comfortable with is what we're going to tell you to do. Now, I know what I would do. Dan knows what he would do. But what makes you comfortable is what makes velocity banking work so well, because you always have choices. And in this case, they do have choices. So I'm going to run some of those for you to show you how this payment funnel, right, this eliminating your debts, this funnel will work for you. Okay. So here we have the student scenario that I just explained. They did get $13,000 from a litigation. And so they have an income of $4,300 a month, okay? They have a total expenses of $4,150, which means their cash flow is $150. And I always forget to write this down, so I'm sorry. So their cash flow is $150. Their mortgage payment is $1,086. And what is so funny about that is that was Dan and my first house payment amount, I believe. So $1,086. Car payment for $316. So these two together equal $1,402. So $1,402. Okay. So that just the car and the mortgage. And we're not looking at that right now. We're looking at their other debts. All right. So when you look at velocity banking strategies for yourself, the first thing you have to do is say, what are my resources? What do I have that I can work with? And what do I have that I can afford to risk and not feel like I'm going to be strapped if I use those resources, okay? And in this case, they have $13,000. Now, they haven't had that $13,000 prior to this. They got it. So the question is, do we throw that at our debt? Or do we use our home equity line of credit and run that down? Or do we do a combination of both? And again, that is going to be whatever is going to be most comfortable for you, but they do have choices. So if we look at their debt, they have Citi card here for $14,006, $400 payment on that. It is at 24%. To run this to the traditional banking term, it would take them 5 years and 1 month, and it would cost them $10,319 in interest debt. Okay. They have a Discover card here at $8,020. It is for the payment on that is $320. It's at a 27% interest rate. And to term it out would be 3 years and 2 months. It would cost them $3,889 to term out traditionally banking. Discover Black card here at $4,000 is their balance on that. $150 payment, 24% is their interest rate on that. This is, if they let this term out, it would take them to 3 years and 3 months, and they would owe $1,773 for that $4,000 that they borrowed. So their total debts here are $26,026. They have $870 in payments. Now, $870, like I said up here, what if they could get that back? What would that do for them? How would that change their life, right? How would it change their life? Knowing that currently their cash flow is $150, it's not a lot. I know this is what all of you look like, right? This are a lot of you. That is what Dan and I looked like, right? I know what it's like to be like this. And even though it's positive cash flow, trust me, it doesn't feel like it. I would know. All right, so $26 is the total amount in just their card debt. $870 are their payments, and then $15,981 is what they will pay in interest debt. Okay, so that's what they will pay if they term these out. Remember, 5 years, 3 years, and 3 years. So if we run a velocity banking strategy, which is always what we propose, what will that look like for them? So give me a second. I want to clear this board and I want to show you what options they have. And it doesn't mean that these are the only options, mind you. These are just 3 that I've brought to them. And you guys can run numbers and look at things and see how that would change if it were you. Okay. So this is a great opportunity for you guys to, kind of test your skills right now and, do this along with us and see what it would look like for you. Okay, so let's look at our options. So they have a few options. Remember, they have that $13,000 in savings. They have a home equity line of credit for $20,000. So there's a couple different things they can do, and I want to show you some of those combinations. So first off, let's look at if they take pieces in parts, right? If they take and pay some of it with the home equity and some of it with the savings, and then left themselves some savings for comfort. Okay, so what would that look like? Well, if we take 2 of our debts here, which would be the City and the Discover Black, and we put them together, that's going to equal $18,006. Okay. And then because this is a home equity, we can put our entire income, all of our income, into that line of credit. Because remember, we're going to be running the expenses out of the line of credit, but it's going to move from the home equity to the checking account to cover whatever expenses come out of that checking account. Okay. So that's how that works. Now, again, it can be done as overdraft protection, or it can be done manually where you just transfer the money online, okay? So if we do a combination and we take the Discover Black in the City together, was that right? Yes. That's going to equal $18,006, okay? Now, we're going to pay off the 80/20. So we're going to pay off this Discover right here. And then they have remaining to them in their savings or whatever they're going to do with it. I don't necessarily recommend savings because it's not going to earn anything. But anyway, it's up to them. So $4,980 is what's left, okay, once they pay this off. So we're then going to take $4,300, which is our income. It's going to drop us to $13,706. Then we have to bring our expenses in. Now, remember, we've taken care of all of our debts, right? Here's our funnel, right? We've taken care of all of our debts. We paid this off, and we have these 2 now that are inside that home equity line of credit, meaning that this $870 is now cash flow back to us. The only thing we're paying out of here really is the interest, okay? So the interest, so it would be, technically this minus the interest. Look at it that way, all right? So now you have your expenses, $3,280 plus the interest. Remember, we're taking the high balance, we're adding it to the low balance. We're then going to divide by 2. So let's do that. So we're going to take our high balance, okay? So we're going to take the 18,006. We're going to add it to the 13,706, which is equal to 31,712. Divide that by 2, which gives me 15,856. And then we're going to multiply that by 0.0925 because it's at 0.9 or 9.25%. That gives me 1466. I divide that by 12 to get my 1 month, hence my 122, okay? Now, that's how you do the calculations on all of these, right? On all of these. All right, so once the 3280 comes off of the card or out of the card and the 122 hits it and goes back onto the card, we've got 17,108. Income comes in again the next month, drops us to the 12,808. Then our expenses come back in. Our interest comes back in. Now we're down to 16,203. How long does it take? Well, it takes 15 months, and they spend $1,075 in interest, okay? So 15 months to do this, $1,075 in interest. Now, option 2. What we could do for option 2 is we pay off the 80/20 and the 4,000, okay? So we pay this off and we pay this off. So when I do that, that means I've paid off $12,020. So remaining is 980. Okay, so if they want to take all of their savings, use that all, and then the home equity for the remainder, that's what we're doing here. Remember, the pay down strategy: organize, identify, implement. So we're identifying what plan we're going to do. Here, we're going to do a combination: get rid of the savings, use it all, and then the rest we're going to be putting through that home equity. Okay, so they've paid off the 80/20 and the 4. They have 890 left over. They're going to put that on the remainder, which is our city here, right? Drops us to 1326. Our income comes in, drops us to 8726. Then expenses come out or back into that line of credit. And our interest goes back into the line of credit. And now we're at 12,089. Again, our income comes in, drops us to 7789. Expenses, interest, we're at 11,145. This option takes them 10 months and $502 in interest. That's it. So they've used savings, correct, it's gone, and they have spent only 502 to eliminate the rest of this debt. Okay, if it were me, I'm probably leaning this way, because I know now, after 10 months, I've got all that cash flow that I can be putting wherever I want, in whatever vehicle I want for it to earn interest. That's just me. Again, you guys do whatever is comfortable for you. So now the last option, I'm going to pause for you for a second and take you to another screen so I can show you what the interest looks like while we're running. Because what we're going to do is we're going to run this for 12 months. And then at the 12-month mark, we're going to see how much we've spent then in interest for letting this 80/20 run before we pull it in. So let me show you guys that.
Okay, so we've been running our home equity for 12 months. And at the 12-month mark, this Discover card is low enough that we can pull it in. So we have to take all of the interest that has been running while we've been running the home equity. Okay, so we have to take all this interest, and that has to be calculated into our end numbers. Now, this 6121 has to be added to wherever we are after the 12 months of our home equity running. So that number is going to be somewhere around 10,765. So at 10,765, we're going to add to it 6121, and then we are going to finish out our home equity at that 9.25% interest rate.
Okay, so I showed you where those balances were at before we pull them back in. So now what does this look like? So again, remember, we're going to let this run for 12 months. Okay, so it's going to run for 12 months. And at the same time, we've got Discover running. Okay, so Discover is going to be running alongside it. So what happens is so at 12 months, the balance of our home equity is at 10,765. The interest that we've spent on that during that time is $1,159. Now, the Discover balance is at $6,121, as I showed you. The interest, now I took the interest and I just calculated it on the Excel spreadsheet to figure out what our interest is going to be. The interest then is $1,941 that was spent in 12 months, okay, as that Discover card was running. Now, at this point, I'm going to be pulling these two together, right? And I'm going at 12 months, and I'm going to run these now, or I'm going to run this now added up. So 16,886 is is my new balance, right? The 10,765 plus the 6,121 is 16,886. Now my income comes in, it drops me to 12,586, but my expenses have to come in now, don't they? And so does my interest. So then I'm at 15,979. So this strategy here is kind of like, a combination. We're letting things run. We decide we're not going to use any of that savings, and how much is it going to cost us, right? So we have to figure that out. If we didn't want to use a penny of that savings, we wanted to let it sit there, that's fine, you guys, that's your prerogative. So we're using that home equity line, and then we're pulling in debts, the last debt, I should say, later on down the road. So what this does is, what does it look like? Okay, we know that this was 12 months. So we've got 12 months plus 14 months. So our total is what? 26 months, right? So a little over 2 years. So that's 26 months All right. Okay. So 26 months. Now we have to add up all of our interest though, don't we? So we have to add up 1159. We have to add up the 1941. We have to add up the 928 that this cost us while it was running. So what does that look like? All right, so let's calculate that. So we have 1159 plus 1941 plus 928 equals $4,028. So $4,028 is what it would cost me, okay, if, or I should say them, if they decide not to use any of that savings, okay, use the home equity and traditionally pay that Discover card. Okay, let that play out as they're running their home equity line of credit to give them enough room to bring over that Discover balance at the 6121. Okay, so it would cost them 4,000. Oh, I guess I should write that down. So 4,028. Okay, so 4028 then is what it would cost them in interest. Now they have their savings still, right? They have it. They've spent $4,028 and it's taken them a little over 2 years. So the beauty of Velocity Banking is your choice, right? We give you choices. You guys make the changes. That is it. That is all. Velocity Banking has saved this couple in this scenario a lot of money. No matter what they do, they're saving money, right? Because we know traditionally banking, they're going to spend $15,981, almost $16,000. But here, no matter what they choose, they win. So we know when you win the payment battles, you're also obviously going to win the debt war because they're saving money at the end of the day. You guys have an awesome day. Hope that you've learned something. And I hope that if you get stuck, if you have any questions, leave us comments. Go ahead. Now, this isn't, like I said, this isn't the only thing they can do. There's other combinations they can do. So if you find a better combination, awesome. That's all that matters at the end of the day. So, but if you need extra help and you want our worksheets, again, you guys can have our worksheets. We have them for you. They are free for you. There's Excel. We also have a PDF. So if you want to use those to organize all of your expenses so that you know where to go and how to plan, just send us an email and we'll go ahead and send those out to you. Or if you guys want coaching, again, if you want a financial coaching plan, we do that for people all day long, every day. So have a great day, you guys, and I will see you in the next video.